good day to all you devils out there. It's Sam with you here on a Friday, July 27th. And if it's Friday, that means it's a Bitcoin Friday. So, what good timing we have here. Interesting developments. Now, I'm going to pick up from where I left off on Wednesday's video, the last update we did on Bitcoin. And we're getting some, maybe some new developments here that support the bullish stance. Now, this was the chart that I think we left with on Wednesday when we did this update. And here, just to review here from our swing high up here at around it, call it 10,000, to our swing low down here on Bitfinex, swing high to swing low, we had come just tapped the 65, right? So we got the reaction here at the 618. Market's strong enough. They get up, they go to the 65 to the tick, and then we come down. So per my count, as I have it now, that this is our significant low, we've gone 1, 2, and that a 3 is underway. Well, there's some question here as to whether or not we have the 3 in here. So as we were looking at it, so one possibility here was that as we look at it here on a 2-hour, is that the 3 was in. The 4 was likely to come in down here. Now, as we've got this established, you know we went 6.5 to the tick. Well, if we work from the other side, right? So from our 2 low here to the proposed 3 high. Well, here's our 23.6 here, 38 median line is right there. We don't quite make it, but we had drawn this little shelf of support. And I'll take this off just to remind you what that was about. So we had this very obvious level of support over here. And then we had a couple of little wicks here as well. So I just combined the two and I took that so from here, from this range of highs up here, and just drew it over to include that little shelf here within Bitcoin here of this little move here, what I'm proposing is a third wave. And just drew it up, drew it across, and lo and behold, what do? Come to it right to the tick, and now we've had this reaction here. But I proposed to you that, as I had suggested, was one scenario, that the third is not in yet. I think this is all still to come. So to get that, and to I suppose to prove out that case, or at least create the scenario here that would allow for that, I had to go down to a smaller time frame. So I'm going from the 2-hour over here. This is the 15-minute, and I had to really dig into this. So here's that shelf. Pardon me, wrong shelf. So this is from the 1-2. All right, so let's get clear. I got to remember where I am here. Okay, so that's our wave 1 high. All right, so now as we push through into this shelf here, well, I can't show it to you here on the 15-minute, but we've established that per the last video looking at the 2-hour. All right, so let's dig into this. So what I was suggesting, let's see if I can zoom in here. What I was suggesting was that if you went through and worked the count from what I'm proposing here is our wave 4 low, as we came back to visit the median line. Right? Sometimes you got to tweak a little when you change time frame. So I had this as a truncated B wave here. So I had the A 5 waves here into an A, B, down for the C. That gives us our 4. So what's important here is now what's happened coming off of this 4 low down here at 72.09. Well, again, just to review, we have this very clear 5-wave structure right here. So we actually get an impulsive wave to give us a 1 wave here. All right, so there's our 1. Then we had this little reaction, whatever caused it, I can't tell you, but we come down, that creates a 2. And it's certainly within the guidelines of where we'd anticipate finding a 2. So what do? We go right to the golden zone. So you've got to look at that and think, potentially this is a bit of a tell. Well, of course, from that golden zone, just now not thinking Elliott wave, just algos, right? So they get their target right there. In fact, they get just, ultimately they get second target. But here's the first push. They get that. So that's clear. So we can see what happened there. So I propose to you that what we have now is a 1-2. Well, coming off of that 1-2, we've got to get, we got to get an impulse if that's going to serve as a 1-2. If we're going to get a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Well, if you work through the count here, now I propose to you, if we allow for this as a 2, that we get a 1 here in green, A, B, down for the 2 here, up we go into the 3, right? And this is technical as well. So if I take my come here. If I take from my 2 low to my 1 high, I guess I should, let's clear this up a little bit. So let me pull this off here so I clear that chart up a little bit. Okay, so here's the proposed 2. Now it's shallow, right? We've characteristically, Bitcoin has been difficult in the second waves. They've either been extremely deep or extremely shallow. Well, in this case, we've got a strong market here. So the fact that we only make, well, we barely make the 38 here. We don't actually touch it, but we get close to it. So I've got this little ABC. Well, from that here, now note we go all the way to and through, we get almost to the 3rd target here. So let's put that in Elliott context. So as I propose it, from this low here, if we're looking for an impulse, well, I've got a 1, I've got a contender, get this right on it, for my 2 here. Now if I pull this over, well, what do we see here? So here's just a couple of ticks from the 1618, the most probable location for our 3rd relative to our 1. So I stick with this as a 1, 2, 3. Well, now I get my little ABC into my 4, but here's where it gets tricky. So if we allow for that to be a 3, I've got to get a 5 into this final wave here. So from this 4, I can't get it. In fact, I had to go down to the 5-minute to come up with a count that works here, and I think what we've got is a truncated 5th. Now take a look at this. So if that's our 3 right here, right? So we just looked at that high probability candidate given the 1618. Well, we get an A, we get a B, and we get a C. Now from here, if I'm going to complete in 5, I've got to dig it out of there. Well, down here on the 5-minute, I can go 1, 2, 3. It looks like I get an A, B, C down here for my 4. Now note this. Look how close this is. So this is, if this is my 1, well, this goes through by a couple of ticks. Boy, so you got to look at it and say, okay, well let's start with the fib swing. So here's the 1. Well, here's my 2, right to golden zone. Taps the 618, and what do? We go directly to the 3rd target. Well, we know the negative 100 is a bit of it's a shorthand reference for us visually as to where I'm going to take that off here for now, as to where we're likely to find the 1618. So we come to that to the tick. So we know, of course, right, that because I've shown this many times. Come here. That if I take the length of my 1 and project it from my proposed 2. Here, well, we've gone 1618 to the tick, right? So we knew that, right? So from the negative 100. So that's a good candidate here for my 3rd. Well, then I get an ABC down here for a 4. Now note here, this is technical as well. So if I take the 2 to the 4, okay, get it right on there. There's my 2. Well, what do? We go right to golden zone. All right, so it literally goes just a tick across this, almost as though just so they can get on the other side of the 618 and get a toe into the golden zone. And then we head up towards target, and all looking good. It looked like the 5 was going to be in up here, but it looks to me like we get a truncated 5th here. So because I can get 5 out of that, I can get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right into this, and I actually get a new high over this high, but we fail this high. So 1, 2, 3, 4, I think we get a truncated 5th here to give us our 3 high. Now granted, I'm really digging in here down on a 5-minute. So allowing for that, so we got to work from that pivot. Well, if that's a truncated 5th, I got to break all of this down to see where we are now. Well, I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Gives me a very clean, clear, don't have to wonder about it, A wave. Well, then I've got my A, B, C here, and essentially we double top into this. Well, let's check that. So here's where it's a little problematic. You got to pull from an algo, doesn't care about a truncated 5th, just using swing high to swing low. What have we done here? We come just a couple of ticks from the 618. So I've got a good candidate here as an A, B, C to give me my B wave after this A. So I'm going to take this now, scrunch it up a little bit. Okay, well, if that's my B wave, well, then I get a very nice 1, 2. Here's the impulse. Here's the big sell-off. That's the 3. I've got a little ABC into my 4. It looks like I'm going to come down here and finish tapping that level of support down here, that prior resistance. Right, so we see it over here. Prior resistance here becoming that support. Right, and we're just a couple of ticks from the 2nd algo target. So you can see here, well, you note here, so here. Right, show that there's never been a video that didn't have this. All right, so here we have it right here. Right, so they get their target. They ultimately get close to second target. So we can look at that and say, well, with our Elliott hats on, that sure looks like a completed 5. Well, I've got a 5-3-5. Right, perfect zigzag. Okay, well, what else can we do with it? Well, we can look for any sort of market geometry. So if I get right on that pivot here over to my candidate here, well, just to add a little kicker to it. So here's the corner pocket. It's not golden because we don't go into the golden zone, but here. So we get, at the same time that we're getting algo target, we're tapping the median line. All right, trading principle number 1, as long as these 3 pivots hold, 80% probability of making the median line. That's why I show this to you in every video. It's the highest odds in trading. If you can get that, so of course the idea would be to look for the corner of the corner pocket at the 50 or the 618 or in the golden zone. And you see it all the time go to the golden zone, right? That's the golden corner pocket. It's my favorite trade. All right, so we down here now. We get this. So tap, tap, tap the median line. We push away, outer parallel, can't even quite get there, and then there's this last push down to give us a 5. Now I propose to you that is not anything more than the 4. Now let's put this all back together. So let me take this. Let's clear this up a little bit. So as we go back, let's take that off. Okay, we'll get rid of this. Okay, so let me go back. Let's go back to a 15 minute. Get off the 5. All right, so we've got a reasonable candidate here. Now, the 4 is the symmetry is not ideal, right? So look at it this way. So if I just draw it this way, so we can say, okay, well, here's my, talk about a short, talk about a short second wave relative to this, what I'm proposing here is a 4th wave. That's, that gets my attention, right? So I recognize that lack of symmetry there, but upon working through the count, I still think that's what we have underway here. So my thought is that we've just put in now this perfectly technical pivot here for a 4. So again, just to get clear on what we did. So from this too low, up to, well, so here, if we take the truncated 5th, we're a little gun shy of it. If we take the absolute high, which is what an algo would do, all we've done is just hit a little front run on the 618. So granted, that's deep for a 4, but the clarity of my 1 wave here and the length, the extension here, well, technically not an extension, but the 1618 move that we've had from the 1-2, the length of my 3rd and the depth of the 4 relative to the 1, it allows for that kind of depth in my 4. Note, we don't even come close to approaching the wave 1 high. And note what is there at the wave 1 high is the 786. Now that would be unusually deep to go that low, but technically we would not invalidate this count. So I stick with that until proven otherwise. I think all we're doing is going up to put in the 5 up here. Now here we got to get through this pivot right here. We know that's the 65. So for this to be realized and for that target to be met here, well, it looks like we've got to have some sort of an impulse to get up there. So if we're going to play it this way, if it's going to end up that we've got a truncated 5th in my 3rd here, and this is just an ABC down for my 4, well, I got to get up here in a motive wave, so I've got to get 5. So looking at it now as I work off of this low, well, sure, hard to count that as anything other than a 1-2. Maybe that's 3, maybe 3's in, 4, 5. Well, that's not going to get us there. So potentially now we have, so we think about it. So we've got to take out this pivot up here because that pivot is to the tick on the 65. We got to get through that. Well, we can't do it with this structure right here. We won't, unless we're going to get a pretty substantial extension in the 5th. Now, I don't know that the 3rd is in yet, but we can do a little measuring to see what the probability of that is. So let me tighten this stuff up here. So if this is going to play as our 1-2, let's think about it. All right, so we're well beyond the 2-6-1-8. So if this is a 1-2, let's take this down to we'll go to sub-micro here. Okay, so if this is going to be 1-2, and we don't know if that's 3 or not, all I know is that we've got some sort of pivot here. Well, let's check that. So if I take it looks like we're through it, but let's take the wave 3 high to my low here. Well, so we've come right to the 50 and hovered. We're not yet to the 6.5. So this next hurdle we have to get through. So just from this swing high to this swing low, we got to get on the other side of the 65. So maybe there's another kick in that. Or we have potentially now the 3 is in. We're going to go down for the 4 and the 5. That won't get us to new highs, meaning that this creates the potential for this just to be the one wave of the 5th wave. So let me see if I can put that in context for you. All right, so if my 5 is, if we're going up here, right? So if we're going to that algo target, that's the target sitting right here from the front run on the 618. So that's our target up here at 87.68. Well, if we're going to get there, so we don't have enough juice in this unless we're going to get something unusual. So if we anticipate a more typical, in this case, what would be a wave 1, well, we got to do it like this. So think about it. So we got to have, so if we go 3, 4, 5, then we got to go A, B, C. Then we got to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to get up there. But then we got, right, so that would get us to a 3. So if I stop it right there. So what would that look like? So we'd have this. So from here we'd have going into this 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, so now if we get that, right, so now it's all purely hypothetical. We don't know, I don't know. I'm just saying this is a potential roadmap here based on what we're seeing here. So if we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then all that does is set up as a potential 1. So let's go to white here. So if I go, so that's potentially 1, that's potentially 2, this potentially 3, 4, and 5. So let's get that up to a higher degree. Let's go, we'll go micro, that'll work. Okay, so do you see what I'm trying to map out there? So if this is going to be 1 here, right into this potential, maybe we've got some, look here. So support becomes resistance, potentially resistance again here for this wave 1 high, right? We don't know, again, I don't know if the 3 is in. I don't know how deep the 4 goes. It's just potential roadmap. Well, I've got to get my 2 wave in then. All right, so let me pull some of this off. All right, so if we're going to do that, well, then I've got to go, if that, again, I don't know where that 5th is going to go, but just hypothetically, if we go from there up to, if we pivot up around that, well, I got to come down here for my 2 wave, and then I got to go into 5 here. Well, again, just kind of hypothetically, we know the negative 100 is going to be very close to the 1618. So I start putting that together. Well, I've got a nice confluence zone, but the confluence zone is implying higher prices yet still. Right, so that would be the algo target, but as I see it, all that's doing is putting in the 3. Let's get this all over here. Putting in the 3 to set up what would be the next correction to correct the 3. So we get something like this down for the 4, and then we go up in 5 and get our 5 up here. All right, so there's a roadmap as to where this trading view as to where we could all be going here. Right, that would put us up, we'd be pushing the low 9s there. Now, of course, there's no way to project this without these pivots, but I can kind of get a sense of, if this is going to hold, what this is likely to look like if we're going to do this, right? So a lot of hurdles before we get up there, but that would suggest that any pivot here, just putting in the 3rd, right? So that would mean here, let's take this up a degree so it's easier to see. So that would mean that is going, we'll go to minuet. All right, so that would be 3, 4 going up for 5 up here. All right, so let me see if I can put that, let's go to a 30-minute, see if that makes sense. All right, so we can, over the weekend, we're likely to get some movement here, so we can see where on this roadmap, if it's still in play, if we haven't violated this low and none of this has been wiped out, if we're still moving higher, that this kind of a scenario here, that's exactly what we're looking for. So that would be, so from here, so if I put the wave on it, maybe that'll make it easier. Let's do it that way. So then you see what we're after. Now, granted, so just when you do it that way, you can see the symmetry here is, it gives me pause, right? So the 4 dramatically larger in time and price and swing and distance than the 2. So I'm moderately hesitant about that. But again, until this low is broken, the fact that we hold this, we hold the wave 1 high, we hold this wave 1 high, I'm inclined to lean into this until I see evidence to support the idea that I've just got this all wrong, and that maybe this is just A wave going in, B could be going, and then we're going down for C, right? That would be the alternate, that the top is in, and that this is just sort of this is an A, we're going into a B before we go down. So there'd be some sort of a B up here, and then we're going down for a C to change the count. Let's say it that way. Right? Wouldn't invalidate the bullish count, but it would mean that we had this wrong, that this was the 5, and so we'd have this impulsive move here into an A, B, C. Down here, we'd be looking for the 50 or the 618. Right? So that would be the alternate if this low is broken and we start to come down here. Then no longer can we play this as a 4 going up into a 5. We've got to assume the top is in, the truncation is all wrong, and that's just an A, B, C into an A, and then we're putting in the B, and then we're coming down for the C. But right, I mean, you have to think the alternate count through in terms of what if we're wrong. What's the most probable scenario if we don't go up here and take out this high and this starts to fall apart? Well, then I think I've laid that out fairly well here. Then this is our top, and then we go back to where we started with the significance of this pivot here at the 65, and then we don't have a trend change yet. So if I go put this back together. So we've got to break that to confirm a trend change, and we are not there yet. So we have to be cautious about the possibility that this is still just corrective of this swing high to swing low, and that all we've done is go up and tap the golden zone before we head back down. Now, it's possible, but I think becoming less and less likely. So, and of course, the other scenario is that the truncation, the count I have in there is wrong. That this is our 3rd, this is our 4th, and that the 5 is yet to come up here. That still gets us past if it's gonna play that way. Which, given that detailed analysis I just did down to the 5-minute, I don't see that path as being more likely than the other, right? So, but it's possible. So I have to consider that. If that's going to play as 4 and we're going up for 5, that still gives us the trend change, right? So that still puts us on the other side of the 65. Note how our target here, if from this 50, is lining up rather nicely with the 618. Pardon me, I've got that. Let me take that off. I've got the wrong 50 on that. My eye is drawn to the red line. Okay, so let's do it this way. So this would be. Oh, well, I've already got it up there, right? So we drew this earlier. So here's the 23. We're going up to that target, but that target, so we'd be putting in the 4th here between the 23, the 38, not touching the median line, but this little shelf of prior resistance potentially being the support. Note the low volume node as we put in that pivot. So market comes down here, doesn't accept it, and we move away from it. So interesting developments here, right? So as I will often remind you, there's no reason to anticipate this count to fail until it does. Right now, it's been absolutely perfect. So again, I think more still to come. I don't think the 3 is in. I think we've got higher prices in store, but until this high is broken, you can see I've got an alert right on the other side of it because no matter where I am, I want to know when that high is broken. I want to know when that alarm gets triggered because that's potentially now creates that scenario that I'm suggesting, which is the 3 is going in here and we've got higher prices yet to come. There may well be an opportunity here, depending on how it trades and how it plays, to be a buyer into the 4 if we're going to come down here for something like this to catch the 5. All right, so that is potentially now setting up for us if we're going to do something like this. Wouldn't it be nice if we came right to the median line and then we got the pop up for the 5, putting in the 5 of the 5. Right, kind of interesting. All right, so with that, I will wrap it up. Just remind you to give us a follow on Twitter, where we try to engage with you guys pretty regularly. And we're just, again, a reminder that we're running this contest where we're giving away multiple memberships. So we've got 3 prizes. First prize is 2 months of membership to our educational Discord and our membership at TradeDevils.com. Second prize is 1 full month. Third prize 2 weeks. So, I mean, $700 of value for a random drawing. All you need to do is enter you just click the link that's underneath this video, and that'll enter you, and it's nothing more than an email address. Now, it's a random drawing, so there are ways for you to increase your odds by tweeting, retweeting, posting, liking, sharing, and every time you do something like that, you get another entry. Well, you can join our public Discord. That gets you an entry if you're kind of thinking about, just kind of taking a look at what we're all about. That's a good place to engage with us. And we've got pretty substantial membership base over there that are in the public free Discord. And a lot of people will use that as kind of a sample, and then if they want more, then they'll become a member. So just kind of a reminder there, do give us a follow on Twitter, as we really appreciate that support, and we'll do our best to engage with you and give you opportunities to choose what coins are getting analyzed and if we can be of help to you. All right, guys, with that, I will wrap it up. There's about 25 minutes. All right, that'll be it for today, and we'll be back to you next week. All right.